That's what I'm talking about. Contrary to my expectation, this vents for the active integrated thermal management system of Panasonic's just announced $2,000 full-frame 24-megapixel Lumix S5 II are what struck me as the key to understanding the true significance of the camera. Because while, yes, this camera is all about the new hybrid phase detect autofocus system, yay, clearly the fulcrum upon which Panasonic's photo and video future rests, this detail, these vents, highly functional, wonderfully innovative, and beautifully executed, suggest to me greater clarity and ambition for the Lumix brand than at any time since the 2017 launch of the GH5, a manifestation of, along with hybrid phase detect AF, call it positive mutations of the company's DNA. We need more of this level of industrial design in the imaging industry. A fully competitive Panasonic lineup will force everyone else to up their games in new ways, human-centered ways. And it's about time. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and straight up, Panasonic is back. With a hybrid phase detect autofocus system as good, and sometimes better, than our Sony a7 IV for real-world whack-a-mole product video clips, packed into a small, light, ergonomically sound, fully featured, full-frame body, best ergos and most completely thought out among the mass-market companies in my book, Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fujifilm, and Olympus. So good generally, in fact, so it just plain works. This may be the longest run-on sentence ever from me, including thermal management courtesy of outstanding active cooling, solid preamps now capable of going down to minus 18 decibels for especially hot mics, upgraded full-sized HDMI Type A port, upgraded IBIS, upgraded EVF 3.7 million dots, upgraded card slots dual UHS-2, upgraded joystick 8-way instead of 4, no recording limit 10-bit 422 up to DCI 4K 60, 10-bit 420 6K open gate, real-time LUTs, waveforms, internal ProRes, USB SSD recording, and external ProRes RAW recording coming via upgrades, blah 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 blah, although for the first time suddenly I learned in Tokyo I actually need a little of that blah 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 blah, specifically Vlog, quite possibly RAW for super high contrast outside shots. And then, on top of that, a well-rounded mix of OEM and third-party lenses 4 years after the launch of the L-mount Alliance. From their own video-centric Holy Trinity S-Pro zooms and keenly priced, surprisingly performant for video and stills in the real world for 99% of us, 99% of the time, especially for 4K video and 24-megapixel stills, all 67mm filter-threaded 1.8S primes. Through Sigma's accessibly priced, more performant than many of us understand, DGDN contemporary and sports lines, including their tiny jewel-like I-series primes. I've got a bunch of them, I love them, and zooms ranging from 14mm all the way up to 600. Their small, light, performant, well-priced 28 to 72.8, by the way, a particularly good pairing with the S5 II for street travel and casual. Sigma's faster, optically superb, dust and weather-resistant art line of primes and zooms like their 35 1.4 or 24 to 72.8 Holy Trinity zoom, to Leica's utterly brilliant but nosebleed expensive Apo Summicron SL primes, and then on the other hand, even TT Artisan's solidly built, personality-filled, sub-$600 manual-focused 90mm f1.25. Well, we've sold our Sony a7 IV and made the S5 II our A-cam for video. In fact, all of the videos listing mystery camera and mystery lens in the show notes over the last couple of months have been shot with a pre-production S5 II. Clearly, I liked the production camera for street photography as well, using it with Sigma's 24 to 72.8 DGDN art, and most especially Panasonic's 85 1.8S, making it easy to recommend for photography. As long as you don't need more resolution, hold that thought. But Like every machine ever created, the S5 II is not without opportunity for improvement, nor free from teething pains. 1. While autofocus performance is a quantum leap beyond anything I've seen before from the L-mount Alliance, it is what so many of us have been waiting for. Video and stills AF in Panasonic's tracking mode is not in the same league as our just about twice the price 5th generation Sony a7R5. Oh well. The flip side is that for what we do, stills and video, the S5 II's ordinary full area AF with human detection is in the same league, not only passing our make 'em cry motorized slider AF tracking test, but actually outperforming, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, our regular A7 IV for product showcase videos. Among our other cameras, when it comes to autofocus, the S5 II handily outperforms my Leica SL2 for video and stills and is better than Claudia's Nikon Z7 II for video. 2. While the autofocus is dramatically improved, I think it fair to say that the autofocus GUI, that is the graphical user interface on screen to communicate to the operator what is in focus where, deserves a serious rethink. The current crosshatch for IAF is, for me, of course your mileage may vary and that's fine, simply not as straightforward as Sony's and others' clearly visible boxes say around the eyes. Three. But with this said, the means by which one transitions between stills and video on the S5 II, while maintaining, for example, different shutter speeds and apertures for each mode, has not been upgraded to what I would consider current best practices. That is, a dedicated stills video switch, which I much prefer. The S5 II's method for handling this is instead a combination of a traditional PSAM movie mode dial, plus a new menu option buried somewhere called the Creative Video Combined Set. It should work in theory, and I think I've got it down, but it is both non-intuitive and a bit unwieldy, and I won't be surprised if I am surprised at finding some parameter among the hundreds one can set that doesn't work or carry over the way I expect. 4. Right, the 4K 60p is cropped, but then again, it is on the A7 IV. 5. Internal ProRes RAW is not an option, but as I said earlier, ProRes RAW will be a paid upgrade to an external recorder only. However, the reason why this matters to me, the reason why external only bothers me, is that I also mentioned I now do have a use case where I need maximum dynamic range and latitude in post for video. That's outside. And adding a Ninja 5 Plus to our handheld kit is suboptimal. 6. The articulating rear screen does not have the tilty feature of our A7R5, and I've come around to prefer a photocentric tilty rear screen option for that purpose. 7. The buffer fills and takes longer to clear than the best out there, like the $6,500 Sony A1 or $4,500 A9 II, another couple of oh wells for us. 8. Rolling shutter is about what it is in the A7 IV, full frame or crop, which is to say, actually, okay for anyone not doing whip pans, fast-moving sports, or vehicles.
This is with Boost IS.
Finally, 9. Just the way Roger Daltrey wanted his MTV, I want my high-resolution sensors. But for now, that's kind of it as far as I'm concerned. Let's take a closer look at the competition. Its closest competitor, I think, is actually Fujifilm's X-H2 series, so let's start there. You, once again, may disagree, that's fine. I'd love to read what you think in the comments section below, And this is far from an exhaustive list. The S5 II doesn't have the resolution, stills or video, top panel LCD, lovely shutter release, or 5.7 million EVF of the identically priced 40 megapixel APS-C Fujifilm X-H2. Doesn't have the shutter release nor resolution of the 15% less expensive X-T5. Doesn't have the 4K 120p or rolling shutter performance of the 25% more expensive $2,500 X-H2S either. But it beats all three for ergos, menu system, touch interface, second only to Canon's in my book, thermal management, no need for a bolt-on fan, and the S5 II's autofocus on the street with the Lumix 85 1.8S was faster and surer in my testing than the X-T5's was with their 56 1.2 Mark II. Then again, the X-H2, like the S5 II, passed our Make 'em Cry slider test, one of just a handful of cameras to date to do so. Although, that reminds me, I have no idea why, but the output from the X-H2 to our Ninja 5, which I used for checking that autofocus, practically pixelated compared to the very clean signal we got from the S5 II. Next. The S5 II doesn't have the full width readout, no crop 4K 60p of the 75% more expensive $3,500 A7S III, or just about twice the price $3,900 FX3. Doesn't have their 4K 120p or rolling shutter performance either. But it does have a nice built-in 3.7 million EVF that the FX3 is missing altogether, twice the megapixels of the A7S III with better thermal management and better ergos and menu systems than both of them. What about Nikon's $2,000 Z6 II, Canon's $2,500 R6 II, Sony's last generation $2,000 A7 III, or Panasonic's own Micro Four Thirds $2,200 GH6? Well, the Z6 II has a top panel LCD and a tilty-only rear screen, which some of us may prefer. Some of us may prefer the Nikon's ergos altogether, perhaps the feel of the shutter release, maybe the build quality. I think Nikon's Z lens line, however, is the Z6 II's biggest advantage. While the Nikkor Z 1.8 primes are generally more expensive than Panasonic's 1.S primes, they are also sharper edge-to-edge wide open with less, as in for all intents and purposes, no chromatic aberration. I really like that. This makes the Nikkor Z primes better stills lenses, the edge perhaps going to Panasonic for being better corrected for focus breathing, that is to say for video. Nikon's Holy Trinity Z zooms marginally outperform Panasonic's S Pros and come with OLED displays that the Panis do not. But the S Pros are great lenses. Nikon also has superb super telephotos where the L mount has no response at all, and superior super zooms, credit where credit is due. The S5 II has better autofocus than the Z6 II for video. Better video altogether, including unlimited recording in all 4K modes, better audio, including an optional XLR mic adapter, better thermal management, dual UHS 2 card slots, and a full-size HDMI port. In short, I think the S5 II is clearly a superior hybrid camera, but Nikon has a superior lens line. And an upcoming Z6 III may narrow the S5 II's current autofocus advantage, an upcoming Z7 III possibly giving me personally the autofocus and resolution I want. The Canon R6 II offers, like the Z6 II, a top panel LCD and solid ergos and build qualities that some of us may prefer, but when it comes to lenses, in contrast to Nikon, the R6 II is in some ways hampered by Canon's lens strategy. Canon has no answer to Panasonic's set of 1.8S primes, which, if it is not already clear, I found delightfully light and surprisingly capable in the real world at 24 megapixels and 4K, and Canon's decision to lock out independent lens manufacturers like Sigma keeps Canon shooters from a slew of excellent, far more keenly priced optics than what Canon offers. But, like Nikon, Canon offers super telephotos and super zooms that go unanswered or unmatched by the L-mount alliance. The nod for autofocus goes to the R6 II for performance and for how the R6 II represents focus acquisition and confirmation in the EVF and on the rear panel, but the performance gap of the actual autofocus in the real world has just narrowed significantly. With all of this said, the S5 II is clearly a far superior video-centric camera across the board, from thermals to recording options and lack of limits, and arguably superior stills camera with marginally higher resolution. For true hybrid shooters, or the many of us who are not sports or wildlife shooters, or do not require f1.2 primes, the S5 II is hands down the superior value. Finally, Sony's A7 III, Panasonic's own GH6, and Leica's SL2S may be the most interesting of the S5 II's competitors, but this is getting long, so I'll be brief. If the S5 II had been launched at the same time for the same price as the A7 III back in 2018, when it was considered revolutionary, the S5 II would have trounced it. From video and stills performance to ergos, IBIS, EVF, thermal management, pixel shifting, burst rates, buffers, the works, you get the idea. It trounces it today, and they're still selling for $2,000 a pop. But the A7 III is still an incredible camera for most of us most of the time. So are just about all of the cameras I've mentioned today. The one thing the A7 III offers that none of the other brands I've mentioned can is entree to the widest and deepest ILC mirrorless ecosystem in the market, driven by the most strategically clear and ambitious player in that market with the single greatest advantage in that market, which is a core competence and market dominance in sensor design. As for the GH6, it has marginally better IBIS. One can handhold the GH6 in high-resolution pixel shifting mode, sometimes successfully. There is no crop in 4K 60p. It does 120p in 4K. It has a higher burst rate and a bigger buffer, with one of its two card slots being CFX Express Type B, and it already offers 12-bit RAW out through the HDMI port. Although, remember, I think this is the third time I'm saying this, none of these comparisons is exhaustive. But for a couple of $100 less, the S5 II offers dramatically better autofocus, and with its full-frame sensor, superior dynamic range, high ISO performance even when equalized for depth of field, and a ticket to the sensor format with by far the greatest momentum in the industry. You have to ask yourself when, if Panasonic releases a GH7, GH6 Mark II with this autofocus, what will the momentum be for Micro Four Thirds glass and sensors beyond that? While we're at it, what may or may not be coming down the pike in the form of the full-frame S1 series? Panasonic didn't say a word about that. Lastly, there's Leica's SL2S. Gorgeous camera, inspiring, built like a brick house. Best weather sealing along with its older brother, the SL2, in the business. Beautiful 5.7 million dot EVF like its sibling too. But the cold hard fact is this. In every way that matters from a results perspective, that is, not considering things like inspiration or joy, or practical but still not considering it, weather sealing, the S5 II is already the superior capture mechanism with access to the identical set of lens options for just about 1/3 the price. I just said that out loud. I'll recap this way. First, Panasonic just got its mojo back, with autofocus better today than anyone, I'm concluding, other than Sony or Canon, not quite sure about Fujifilm. I look forward to seeing Panasonic tweak its AF over the coming months through firmware updates. I hope they reconsider their autofocus system's GUI. Second, but with this said, the autofocus, as it is already everything we currently need at 3 blind men and an elephant. Third, the S5 II has better ergos, better thermal management, and is better thought out than anything remotely near the same price, including, by the way, something as simple and useful as shutter angle for video. While I may not enjoy it as much as I enjoy my SL2, I still enjoy the S5 II, and it absolutely beats the SL2S as a hybrid machine. which makes for interesting conjecture about what the recently announced L² partnership with Leica may mean. Simply put, the S5 II is the bargain of the full-frame truly hybrid segment as I'm recording this at the beginning of 2023. Fourth, there are software tweaks I'd like to see on the S5 II aside from autofocus, starting with a more rationally and clearly designed Creative Video Combine set. Even the name makes no sense to me. Longer term, I prefer a dedicated physical switch to shift between stills and video. Fifth, beyond our needs here at Three Blind Men and Elephant, what I'm really looking forward to is this hybrid phase detect system showing up in other Panasonic bodies, Leica bodies too, including higher resolution bodies. For now, it's the S5 II for our video work, my Leica SL2 and M11 for my personal work, Claudia's Z7 II for her work. But sixth, the competition doesn't stand still. It is now, for example, a Sony a7R5 with 24-70 2.8 G Master 2 that I take with me when I'm limited to a one-body, one-lens combo for professional and personal work. Think super lightweight, ultra minimalist while traveling. And Sony just doesn't stop. Nikon has made great strides over the past 2 years especially, sufficient for a Nikon Z7 II with the brilliant Nikkor Z 24-70 2.8 to find a permanent home in Claudia's camera bag. If they come out with a third generation Z6 and Z7 this year with Z9's autofocus and clean up a few of the details, their lens lineup is so good that they will pull up alongside Sony, perhaps ahead of Canon. Fujifilm's XH2 series is to be reckoned with. In essence, a mini-me SL2, SL2S set with superior autofocus for 1/2 to about 1/4 the price. And Canon, well, they remain Canon. All of which is to say, I am delighted that Panasonic is back in the game. I think it's a good thing for all of us, irrespective of the brand we shoot with. But here at Three Blind Men and an Elephant, we are in. But the questions now become, what happens next? What do you actually need when? And are you okay waiting? This is going to be a very interesting year for camera gear. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code HUGH at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comments section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video call via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost to you affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for